Hi, welcome to Straight Talk with Carly Alyssa Thorne. And I'm very happy today because we're talking about one of my favorite subjects. And I have with me Kimberly McGeorge, and we're going to be talking about self-rebirthing and energy and all sorts of really great things that, in my terms, yes, it's a little metaphysical and it's also something I love. So I'm really excited to be talking about this today. So welcome, Kimberly.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited.
So I thought, you study the science of frequencies and energies and all these things. I'd love for you to, first of all, tell the audience, why did you get fascinated around these subjects and what inspired you to study and get into all this?
Well, it's kind of a long story, and I was actually thinking about our conversation that we were going to be having earlier today. And I realized it actually started a little bit further back than I normally tell the tale. So this is one of the first times I've ever spoken about this. But my undergraduate degree is in communications with an emphasis in mass media, which I used with radio. But one of the first most memorable things I remember my professor saying was actually about frequency. And how she described it was, when you talk in a house, you have a certain frequency to your voice. And those frequencies in your voice or your words, every single word you say is recorded literally in every room of your house. And how do we know this? One of the ways we know this is because certain, let's say, intelligence agencies in the United States and abroad, actually everywhere around the world, they can pull out conversations from buildings by tuning a certain machine to the frequency of your voice. And they can pull out every single thing you've ever said. It's in layer upon layer upon layer in the walls. And I actually learned that when I was like 18. And it just came to mind this morning when I was thinking about our conversation. And I just think that's so fascinating. That is like one of the most basic concepts of frequency, you know, that I can kind of tell in a relatable way. So it's pretty fascinating stuff. But how it came back around to be applied, how I use it today, like with health and wealth and abundance and many applications, really came through my own health challenges, led me to the study of frequency. And I came in through the door of homeopathic medicine, which I'm not sure everybody's familiar with, but that's a pretty old school type of energy medicine. It is energy medicine, but it's a very old and ancient practice of energy medicine, you know, the like cures like type of theory. So I started using homeopathic medicine in my practice and with my clients and patients, and they got well really, really fast. So from there, I kind of expanded out to the kind of work that I'm doing now, which is a little more complicated.
So I love that story. And I'm going to tie this back to that when we say things to one another, that intuitional feeling of when someone says, I love you, but, right? And all of a sudden you're feeling like that vibration or that energy or that feeling is, well, what do you mean you love me, but? Versus I love you, and they're going into another sentence. We don't realize that our words, like the house, the walls containing that vibration, our words, the vibration also is in our tone and how we say things. I think that's so important to tie back to what we're talking to is our intuition. What are you feeling when you're shaking someone's hand? What are you feeling when you're hearing the conversation with people? So I think I love the whole study of, personally, the interconnection with psychology and philosophy and theology and communication, because it's such a plethora-rich, multi-sensory discussion and discovery, and it's beautiful. So I'm really excited to talk to you because I knew you knew about this stuff, and it's one of my passions, so I was really excited. So now that we've talked about what got you into this, I do want to tell the audience, I'd love for you to actually just give a little pithy explanation of what homeopathy is, and then we're going to go into what was your inspiration for going beyond that into becoming a naturopathic doctor. And yes, you said it's a little more complicated. I still want to give the audience an experience of what it is that you do and how you apply what you do.
Okay, well, homeopathic medicine is basically a dilution of a frequency of a certain product or object. It could be a plant, a nut, it could be many, many things, not just that. It could be things that we consider poisonous, like snake venom, you know, but the energetic frequency of that, I call it your body calls for, or your energy field calls for. So some people, that balances them. So we can know through applied kinesiology, sometimes called muscle testing, or through, I use a machine that scans many different ways. We can know what our own body calls for, our own energy fields call for, in order to bring ourselves, and I'm not just saying our physical self, that's part of it, but our emotional, mental, energetic self to balance, or homeostasis is a big fancy word for balance. And our bodies and our souls and our minds and our emotions crave and scream for balance. And a lot of times we intuitively, I love that you talk about the intuition, because we intuitively know when we're off balance. I mean, some things are obvious, like, you know, when you look in your checkbook and it's negative, you know your checkbook's out of balance. But we also know, like you said, the more subtle energies, when our relationships are out of balance, and when our souls are dry and we don't feel like we have a purpose and they're out of balance. So intuitively we know, and I think it's so amazing we have the technology and the knowledge and, like you said, the science to start to know how to bring ourselves back to balance so much more quickly with less guesswork than we used to. And so my personal journey came in kind of through the health door. The doctors did not know what was wrong with me. I would lose lots and lots of weight when I got pregnant. Instead of gaining weight, I would lose weight, and I would basically start what they called a dying process. So I would begin to look like I'm dying, which of course put me and the baby in danger. I couldn't gain any weight. I wouldn't retain any nutrition. I had really bad migraine headaches, and they had no solution for this other than, let's try this and let's try that and let's take these drugs. And of course, I didn't want to injure my growing, babies inside of me. So I didn't do that. I said, there has to be other things. So I really started studying on my own. I came in through herbal medicine was my first study. And I had so much, I fell in love, passionate love with herbs and how it applies to health and emotions and mental balancing. And I grew my own organic herbs. I became an herbal columnist for an international magazine. And we started a mail order company, and we shipped herbs all over the world. I got really into herbs. But my clients, and I was really successful, but my clients, I find, Carly, and everyone that's listening, and you guys know this is true, compliance is so low. I mean, even if I gave my clients the herbs and gave them the supplements, which, often I didn't. They were walking out with $300, $400, $500 bags of medicine, natural medicine, but medicine. And they wouldn't take it. The ones that did got well, but most of them didn't. Who wants to take 30, 40, 50 pills, even for 2 weeks? It's really hard. I know it sounds dumb, but you guys know what I mean. It's hard to find the time. It is. It's hard to be disciplined. We forget, and we don't take them all, and we leave them at home when we go on vacation. And so I wanted to find a way, Carly, where people will get less expense and easier. So I started using what I call base homeopathic bottles. So if you came in with a complaint that you were depressed, I would use what I call an emotional bottle that was put together for emotional balancing. Or if you came in and you had diabetic tendencies, we would start out with a diabetic homeopathic bottle. And then we would load, what I call load frequencies, because I have a frequency generator machine, it's not really called that, but a machine that generates the frequencies of these products. I would load them into these bottles, and people started getting well. And they could take one bottle. They could take 10 drops 3 times a day, or 10 drops twice a day. And so they became well, and crazy things happened. Like a woman that had eczema all her life. She got well with 1 bottle. That's crazy stuff. I mean, that's amazing. And I think the huge key is knowing what's out of balance and what you need to take or do or act or think or feel to bring yourself back in balance.
One of the things I like that what you said was you created a bottle for that individual. And I think what happens too often is, even with doctors and Western meds, or I don't care what it is, a health protocol, an exercise protocol, everyone tries to cookie cutter something to everyone. And we're all individuals, and we're out of balance in one place, and we may have more feminine energy, more male energy, whatever. I mean, it's an endless conversation. The thing is like you said, finding out what we're out of balance. And that's one of the things I do love about kinesiology is you can, and there's so many, there's body talk, there's, EFT, there's so many things that people, there's just so many modalities out there where we can discover how we're out of balance, and then taking the approach of custom tailoring something to that person's body. What I found was really fascinating in the work that I do, and like you, I studied, Reiki and homeopathy and herbology and all that stuff. What I found what was really fascinating is I started discovering, based on the archetype of the person, certain protocols will work better with others. You're talking about people actually following through. So I found flower essences worked really, really well with females. I don't know if it's because flower essences are from, flowers and women are more attracted to it, whatever. And I found homeopathy worked really, really good with the people that are really scientific. A+B equals C. Then I found herbs. Herbs worked better with my clients that love nature and they love getting their hands in the dirt, and they were just kind of more of a nature type of person. And they also worked really well with males who are really into just being in the outdoors. And then I found Western medicine is kind of like if a person believes that radioactive isotope is going to cure their cancer, it will. It's like the whole placebo effect. And if you give them that bottle of the homeopathy or the flowers, if they believe, because I really do believe there's that piece, that component, the faith and the belief that something's going to work, then it will. So it's really fascinating studying the archetypes of people. Their personalities, left-handed, right-handed. Are they more audio, visual, kinesthetic? Which platforms, herbology, homeopathy, that's why I say by platforms, resonated more with them. What are your thoughts on that?
The one thing I want to get back to that you first said that is so dead on, it's crazy, is I always say one of the reasons people haven't gotten well sometimes with Western medicine is because what you said, you walk in and let's say you have diabetes. Well, you're given one solution, insulin or medication, or it's one size fits all. So I love how you said that, because people are so individual. And I always say there is no certain dietary amount for vitamin C for everyone, or zinc or minerals or anything, because we all have different metabolisms and different enzyme ability and different energy, like you said, type A, type B, type Z, there is, who is the normal person that we use to figure out what we need, or who is the normal person? There's a million ways to arrive at the disease they call diabetes. I don't like disease terms. There's a million ways to get cancer, but the beautiful thing, and I'm going to use the cure word in quotes because we're not supposed to use that word, but I always say there's a million ways to treat or cure cancer. There's a million ways, as varied as the person, there's so many modalities, as you mentioned, to treat those things. And it's funny because I've noticed also certain people respond really well to energy medicine, extraordinarily fast. Some people are more resistant. I have tested people with my machine where I cannot get a read, and there's no scientific reason for it. You have to start looking at the outer energy layers, and I know this is a little deeper, or spiritual reasons. There may be energies that are blocking because I'm using an electronic energy type of system. If there's other energies blocking, that pure flowing life force energy of a person, you can't get a read. So we have to take care of those things first. So there's so much to this, but I have noticed that, there definitely are those, as you call them, archetypes. I might call them, but I can kind of tell, what person's going to respond to what as well. And patterns come up. When you tested thousands of people like I have, in like you've worked with, I'm sure, you see patterns, and it's really interesting.
And isn't it fascinating? I love this whole field. That's why I'm always terminology, bridging the West and the East. Like you, I had, obviously different, but I also got into health because I had a lot of medical problems. And my mother had German when she was pregnant with me, which really messed with my immune system. And I just had, just created a lot of issues. So my whole life has been surgeries or, what I'm trying. So I got really into learning every modality that was energy-based and all the herbs. And now I also have to say, I'm going to put our medical disclaimer in here because you mentioned the cure. So we want to encourage everybody, obviously, if you're getting into any sort of exercise plan, health plan, eating plan, whatever it is, make sure you do consult whoever it is that you consult. If it's a naturopathic doctor, great. If it's a Western doctor, great. But whatever it is that you do that in terms of making sure you have clearance to do anything that we may be talking about. And we're both not mentioning that we can cure anybody or that there's, this is just something, these are our personal experiences with our personal clients. And we just want to put that out there. And obviously, if anyone is having anything dramatic happen, and there's always 911 or, there's all sorts of outlets out there for you to handle whatever's going on. So now getting back to what we were talking about, just energy medicine in Western and Eastern, the one thing I also want to be very clear on, Western medicine does have a place. You have a heart attack, you go to ER. You break a limb, it's going to be, have to be fixed or put in a cast. Now, I'm not saying I haven't seen amazing healings with energy, even on some of those really dramatic events. However, I do think part of our societal problem is it's one way or the other way. It's this way or the highway. And we need to learn as a society, from my personal thoughts, is that everything serves a purpose. And if we are open to a both and mindset, naturopathic medicine, energy healing, and all these things, if you do have something that's really crazy, look at all the solution at the whole. Don't just rule out one thing over the other. So, I mean, I'm sure you've seen that experience as well.
I completely agree with you, and I'm a huge believer in emergency medicine myself, and in medicine. As a matter of fact, in my machine, there are many, many, many drug frequencies, and people's bodies and energy fields call for drugs and medication, believe it or not. Some people that would shock, that are, really into only, like you said, the alternative, way of doing things. But everyone's individual, and drugs and, like you said, Western medicine, they do bring some people to balance, and it is the solution for some people, and a combination is the solution for some people. And like you said, some people choose to only go the alternative route, and that is their choice as well. So it is about personal choice. I believe it's about opening your mind, being very sensitive to your own energy and what works for you and your family. And, there's no judgment here for me, and I know there's none from you either. So whatever works for you. And I would like to tell, just because it's so fascinating to me, kind of a story on how this energy medicine can work on what people conventionally wouldn't think. And this is one of my specialty areas, which are what I call the spectrum. This, well, not me, it's not like I made it up. The spectrum disorders, which are like ADD and depression and anxiety and OCD. And so many people in our stress-filled society struggle with those disorders. And I had a girl who was 18, and she had intestinal surgery, which is so interesting to me, because we now know, of course, or we've known for a while, that there's more brain chemicals manufactured in the gut than there are in our brain. So of course your mood and emotions are going to be affected when you've had certain parts of your body, any part of your body really, but especially that intestinal area, cut out and rearranged and in essence violated to a degree. It was necessary. But she came to my house late one night, and she was catatonic, and her mother brought her to my house because she did not want to take her to the mental hospital again. And so she said, "Can you do anything?" I said, I don't know. There's no promises. I can try. And we worked on the machine, giving her the right frequencies, balancing her energy field, and some applied kinesiology. And it was just frequencies. It wasn't any liquid substance. It wasn't any solid substance. It was just frequencies of many different substances. And when she left, she was laughing, she was talking, and she was making plans to go to the movie the next day with her mother. That happened in an hour, and Carly, that is amazing. That's miraculous. It shows how responsive we are when we're given the right things. And the right things can be music. It can be the right music. It can be the right color. It can be the right nature or the right setting. It can be getting your feet in the dirt. It can be your animal, getting a pet, or the right people. It can be so many things. Everything has an effect. Positive, negative, there is no neutral really on our energy.
I agree. Especially, I'm always telling people this. It's so, so important. Be willing to let go of the things that are no longer serving you. And that means people, places, things, foods, whatever it is. We're such intuitive beings. We know when we're off, like you said, we can feel. Start tuning into your body and listening to it, and observe how you feel around certain people. Observe how you feel in one room in your house that may be disorganized and cluttered and not clean versus a room that is, orderly and clean and has fresh flowers, or whatever these things are. Our environments are so important. Those environments are also going to either bring you down or bring you up. And I by the way, I go to sleep to sound vibratory music every single night. It's on, my iPod's on the entire time I'm sleeping. I really encourage people to look into music modalities that are healing modalities, like sound vibratory music. And speaking of energy healing, a lot of schools now are making Reiki a part of their RN or LPN nursing license, because they've done studies on when people have Reiki done to them, which is a Japanese art form of energy healing, that they use less pain medication and they heal quicker from the surgery. So I just think we as a society need to be more open-minded to all the things that are out there, even if we don't understand them necessarily, or we don't see the scientific proof the way some people need to see scientific proof. In my view, if someone tells me they're sending me energy, and they ask for my permission, or I'm in the hospital, can we pray for you, or blessings, I'm totally for that. I'd much rather have that than someone saying, oh, I'm so sorry for you, I hope you feel better. That to me is a negative energy. If I'm going in for surgery, someone says, blessings, go for it, you can do this, that's what I want to hear. I don't want to hear, oh, I'm so sorry, another surgery, or, oh God, I hope you feel so, you're better. I'd rather know that someone is, whether someone believes in prayers or not, that blessings, prayers, energy, that type of thing, that to me is more encouraging.
I think that's amazing. I didn't know they were doing that with the RNs. I think that's wonderful that they're, Western medicine, I guess, is open to that. One of the things I can kind of relate to that is I'm in love with acupuncture. And what I do is a form, it's also sometimes called electric acupuncture, but I like the old-fashioned acupuncture, and this boggles some people's minds. But if you've never tried it, and I bet you probably have, Carly, but I implore people to try acupuncture. I had a long time ago a severe case of IBS, and I went to 3 treatments of acupuncture, and it was gone. I mean, I couldn't even eat. It was so bad. But it was the most relaxing experience, and this sounds so crazy, that I've ever had. And you wouldn't think you could fall asleep with about 30 needles stuck all over your body, but you do if you give yourself over, I say, to the energy, and you open yourself up to experiences. And it's funny because we're taught, this kind of ties in with another point I love to talk about, which is we're taught from a young age that the world is not a safe place. But contrary to that, I have found the world or the universe is a very loving, welcoming, generous, playful space, and that we can really expand into that, and these are some of the things or ways to do that we're talking about today.
Yeah, I love all the new modalities out there. I'm always wanting to learn and explore and look to see what may be coming out. I love Ayurveda. I think the more we know about ourselves, knowing what blood type we are, knowing what dosha we are, knowing what, archetype, meaning, in NLP language, if you will, that are you more kinesthetic or auditory, the more you know about yourself, or if you're left-handed or right-handed, all these things, you can tailor your life around that, because it makes it easier on your body and your spirit and and the other people around you, by the way, when you're more in balance. And so I think knowledge can be detrimental for some people, because that's all they do is think, and they get the analysis paralysis, or it can be very empowering when start to get to know your body so well. And if you're kinesthetic, you may not do really well in an environment where, your people or friends or whatever aren't type people that want to hug or whatever. Just you really kind of need to know who you are. And the more you're open to discovering that, the more you can learn and experience from others, like a practitioner from you, right? Being open to having explored those things, now you can also talk from experience. What acupuncture was like, what is electronic acupuncture like, what is energy healing feel like, all these different things. So I just encourage everyone just to have an open mind and go play and explore and learn about themselves.
I love that. I think that's so true. Even I was talking to a friend the other day about, you probably heard about the love languages, and you kind of referred to that, what you were just talking about. But it's so true, because I'm like a big gift giver and I like surprises, but there's people in my own family, and I'm sure people you guys know, some people hate surprises. That does not make them feel loved, but that makes me feel like amazingly loved. So the more you can get in touch with not only your own, variations and what makes you unique, but with the people that are close to you, what makes them unique, they're just stronger and richer and more vibrant those relationships will be with yourself and with others. So I absolutely agree with you on that.
So the reason why I brought up what I just brought up was, we started this whole conversation, and you and I talked on the phone, we were already talking about rebirthing. And I think part of that self-rebirthing, and so for me, part of that rebirthing, and to me every day is a rebirth, is getting in touch with yourself, learning from your mistakes, and not regretting your past, embracing what was, embracing what is, so that you can then go forward.
That is so rich, because first of all, we stand in self-judgment way too much. If I'd only done this, if I hadn't married him, if I hadn't taken that job, if I had moved across the country or out of the country when I was 18, or, we go on and on and on. But I think, first of all, stepping out of that self-judgment and just letting it be, and letting that be okay, and letting that be the lessons and the path that took us to where we are, and built those, the strength into us, and the lessons, like I said, and the rich learning. We can really take the positive out of that. But more than that, and I was even talking to my daughter, who's very young, about this, and she's her whole life ahead of her, but she's like, oh, Mom, what if I make the wrong choice? And I said, it does not matter. There is no wrong choice. And she said, how can you say that? And I said, because in this reality, in this world, we have the beautiful choice to choose again. So there's not a wrong choice. It's an adventure. And maybe it's not going to be a pleasant adventure, but it's still an adventure. And it's still a story, and it still makes it part of who you are. And you can end it. You can end it in a day. You can end it in a week. You can end it in a month, a year. And that's what I love. That is what I love about this existence. And one of the positive things about being in human form is we have that beautiful free will. We can write our own destiny. It's so amazing. And we don't think about that, and we don't embrace that, and we don't live from that. But really, there are no wrong choices, because you can just choose something different.
And I think people forget that power of a choice. It's like, unfortunately, we're human beings that have emotions. So we're having a conversation with someone and we react instead of respond. Or we did do this, like you said, we beat ourselves up for it. And yes, here's what I have found in doing all the self-development work that I've done on myself is I still make mistakes. I still may, have my meltdowns. The only difference is I'm aware now. So in other words, when I'm having that meltdown, I'll recognize that I'm having the meltdown, and I'll understand the reason why, and I'll more quickly go to correct things. Versus before, when I didn't have the knowledge of what was happening, you just, you act out and you do these things, and you just repeat the cycle over and over and over again until, you get more and more aware. It's like they say in any problem, the first step is being aware of the problem, and then taking action steps to correcting the problems. So, and I also don't believe in labels, because I think labels just not only suffocate people, it gives them excuses when they start doing the labeling. I got this, and that, therefore I can't do this, and that. And I think that anyone can do anything they want to do if they really want to do it, and put away their ego and their excuses and their I can'ts, because a lot of the ego part is feeling ashamed that they can't do something, and so they want to ask for help, right? And then they play the victim because they didn't ask for help, but now they're playing the victim because they don't have whatever the resources or the education, whatever it is that they need to get where they want to go. But they're also not willing to, and that's why I say but, they're also not willing to ask for help. So for me, is you have to be in the willingness and the openness and the and part. I'm a very big component for and versus but, because but is all loaded with excuses like could-have, should-have, whatever. And is giving me that choice point, and I can choose, or and there's always, if you choose the and, there's always another choice, another alternative.
Oh, I really like that. I also I think, I don't know if you have children or not, Carly, but I'm sure some of your listeners do, but children are a beautiful mirror. Because I raised my voice to my daughter in the car earlier today, and she's like, love and light, Dr. Kimberly, love and light. And I'm like, oh, wow, yeah, I need to treat my children with just as much patience and love and respect as if I was in a session with a client. I mean, it's really true. So I think, children and your friends and your family, the people close to you, are such a beautiful, mirror reflecting back, how you are not choosing maybe to operate from your highest self, or, places of balance. I love how you said that. That's really true.
It's just interesting because we get so impatient. I think as a culture in general, we're very impatient. We want this now type of energy. And even us healers, or I was just interviewing someone the other day who master Reiki healer, blah, 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 and all these, again, energy modalities and healing, and she got cancer. And people are like, because we may be healers or this, that, we're never, and eat healthy and all that, and exercise, we're never supposed to be wrong. We're never going to we don't have meltdowns, or, we don't get sick, and there's no way you would ever get cancer because you don't drink, you don't smoke. And I'm like, that's craziness, because you can get, I think the whole conversation about what we're talking about are things that are never-ending conversation. It really goes back to what you believe. Do you believe in fate? Do you believe in karma? Do you believe in destiny? Do you believe in free will? What is your belief system or your faith system or whatever that is to you? You're going to make your judgments or your thought processes or your reasoning or responses based on what it is that you believe. So for me, I've had 30 surgeries. I've been to hell and back, and I get that there were all journeys. And so for me to actually blame one person or just blame my mother if I'm German users, or or that I didn't do enough studying Western, Eastern, and I've learned that for me I have to do a blend of both. And I don't know what's going to happen. I don't have the bottom line reason. Even if I eat really healthy, even if I do exercise, and all these things. For me, I don't know if it's exactly what I chose. I mean, I do believe in reincarnation, but I don't know for me to say rationally, here, okay, before I was born, chose my mom and dad, therefore have this experience, I can believe all that, but do I really believe that? You know what I mean? There's so many layers of the unconscious and subconscious to what we really believe. I may say that's what I believe, but do I know that's what my subconscious believes? You know what I mean? So it's just like an endless conversation.
It really is an endless, absolute conversation. And I always say it's an amazing thing to be worshipped, which healers are often worshipped, or teachers of consciousness are often worshipped. And I say it's a horrifying thing to be worshipped, because, when they someone has put you up above, there's nowhere to go. The only place to go is to fall down. And we are very human. I don't have all the answers. You just said bold out there. You don't have all the answers. Even for ourselves, we don't have all the answers. And I think, as healers and teachers, sometimes we feel that we have to be perfect or present that we are perfect and that we do have all the answers. But I love that I'm learning just with everybody else. I mean, especially if you've ever had a practice, which I know you do work as well. But when you see clients, what you believe at the beginning of your practice, it just changes, and you learn. And like you said, there's so many new modalities, and you learn new modalities. And I didn't used to have a machine. Now I have a machine. I used to just apply kinesiology, and I learn every day. I really do. I learn about myself. I learn about my clients. I learn about the world. I learn about spirituality. So I think keeping that open mind and giving others that grace that you want to be giving yourself, that we're all just trying to figure this whole thing out, really.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest lesson, I think, in all this is literally being open to exploring what is. And whether you're into the Big Bang Theory or God and the seas parted and whatever, created Adam and Eve, whatever it is that your basis is coming from, just be open. Just be open to exploring, and that's the other thing I think, is letting go of the need to know everything, because that just drives you crazy. It's like, yes, go find whatever it is you want to explore, to learn about and explore with it. But don't drive yourself crazy to have the A plus B equals C, because life really isn't like that. So, and I know you and I could talk for like hours, and I know. So what are some just beautiful nuggets that you'd love to leave the audience with? And oh, by the way, because this is also a podcast, can you please tell everybody where they can find you?
Oh, of course, I'd be happy to. Well, I have my own radio show, which is The Secret to Everything, which is on Wednesday night on Blog Talk Radio. So you can join me there, and I interview people like Carly and lots of people, different people. So you're welcome on my show anytime, Carly, to talk about whatever you'd like. But so you can find me there. You can also find me KimberlyMcGeorge.com would be the easiest way to connect with me. And I'm on Facebook and Twitter, so I'm pretty findable, I guess.
Spell that out, because again, some people are listening and they're not going to hear. I mean, the people watching the video have the wonderful lower third. However, the people that are listening just heard you rattle off Kimberly McGeorge.
Okay, on Facebook, I'm Kimberly McGeorge for my personal Facebook, or Dr. Kimberly McGeorge for my, I guess they call it, I don't know, your public page or your fan page.
Yes,
And then I'm
your fan page. And she spells, I want you to spell out your name because everybody spells Kimberly differently.
That's very true. Thank you, Carly. It's look at me looking at it. It's Kimberly, capital M, small c, capital George. I always say McGeorge, like McDonald's. And I'm Serene Wellness on Twitter, so I have a little bit of a different Twitter name. So that's how you can get in touch with me.
And the beautiful part is I always put together a blog post, which will have the embedded video, the podcast, and all of Kimberly's information. And so you can always go there. And of course, this will be all over the place on Vimeo and YouTube and Spreaker and Blog Talk. So, and then it'll be on my Facebook page when it's going to be launched. So thank you so much for joining me. It's been an absolute delight. I love talking about the subject. And yes, I'd be honored as well to be on your show. If that happens, I'd be delighted. And I thank everyone for joining us. If you have any questions, always feel free to email me at my website, which is carlyalyssathorne.com, and emails carly@carlyalyssathorne.com, and that's CarlyAlyssatHorne. We wish everybody a beautiful day. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much, Kimberly, for being with me.
Thank you, Carly. Much love to everyone.